I'm glad that you didn't get hurt. Could have been much worse. That was a terrifying experience. I had to get out of my car and shake myself a few times before I could start thinking straight. My hands were shaking when I tried to make a call. As soon as I got home, I went to grab some work clothes so that I could head back out. There was no way that I was gone. Nah, let some jerk-off biker ruin my day like that. I wasn't hurt, so I wasn't scared, but I was mad. As I walked past the TV, I saw a news report from earlier in the morning showing an accident on that same road. The report said that a man driving a pickup truck lost control of his vehicle and hit a ditch. They also mentioned that the driver sustained minor injuries and refused treatment by emergency medical services. I smiled because I knew that this guy was talking about me. Apparently, they hadn't found the truck yet. I wonder if they'd think it was strange that it was full of work clothes. What are you doing up? It's the middle of the night. Should be asleep. You know, he doesn't have to yell at me. I'm trying to take care of business here. How am I supposed to sleep with all this stuff laying around? I asked him what he was doing, and he told me that he couldn't sleep because he was worried about me. He asked me why I was awake, and I told him that I had to get some work done. I don't do well when I'm cooped up inside, so I was spending the night working in my garage. My dad said that it's not worth it, that he can pay someone else to work on the house, and he would never ask me to do this. But I told him that I wanted to do this. I'm a grown man, and I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. He asked me again if I was sure, and I told him that I was. Then he just shook his head and went back to bed. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a little scared. If someone threatened you, it's okay to be afraid. I was feeling pretty good about myself after I talked to my dad. I continued working on the cabinets until around 3:30 a.m. when I heard a loud crash. Startled by the noise, I dropped one of the door panels that I was installing, and it fell onto my hand, giving me a nice little cut right down the middle of my palm. I hopped down off of the ladder and went to grab some gauze and antiseptic from my first aid kit. I cleaned my wound and wrapped it up before going back to work. I put the time in, but my mind wasn't focused on the task at hand. I kept replaying the event from earlier in the evening over and over in my head, and I started to dwell on the idea that I could have been seriously hurt or even killed. I wondered how my dad would react if I was brought home in a body bag. Was he going to crumble and fall apart? What would my mom do? Would she be able to handle the situation, or would she go into a deep depression and spend her days sitting on the couch watching Lifetime movies? I know that these thoughts are irrational, but the more I thought about it, the more real it seemed. And it made me realize how precious life is, and how it can be taken away in an instant. This is my last time. I need to stop thinking like this. I need to find another way to fix this. It's almost dawn, and I'm exhausted. I took one last look at my work for the night before calling it quits. I swept the sawdust and scraps of wood into a pile and headed to bed. I woke up a few hours later and felt refreshed. I needed to get out of the house, so I went for a walk. While I was walking, I came across a bike path that connected to the road where the accident happened last night. I stopped for a moment to think about how close I was to death. I still have the scrapes and bruises to prove it. I could have easily lost control and crashed into the ditch. I probably would have walked away with a few bumps and bruises if I did, but I might have also been seriously injured or even killed. The wind snatched my beanie off of my head and sent it flying into the ditch. I sighed, rolled my eyes, and headed back home without it. As I approached my house, I saw a familiar-looking pickup truck parked in the driveway. The passenger side window was open, and I could see a pair of legs sticking out. I was confused, but I walked toward the truck to get a better look. It was then that I noticed my dad's shoes in the passenger seat. I knocked on the window and yelled, "Hey you," but nobody responded. I circled the truck to see if anyone was in the bed, but it was empty except for a few tools. Still confused, I opened the driver's side door and called out for my dad. A woman's voice yelled, "What are you doing?" Startled by the sudden outburst, I jumped and turned to see an attractive woman with long flowing brown hair glaring at me. "Did you just climb into my boyfriend's truck?" she asked. I was shocked. This must be the woman that my dad was talking about. She's here to help us with our cabinets. But where's my dad? I tried to explain the situation, but she just kept interrupting me. She eventually stormed off, leaving me standing there with a million questions running through my head. Where's my dad? Why didn't he tell me that she was coming? Who is this woman? With all of these thoughts racing through my mind, I couldn't focus on anything. I wandered around the house until I found my mom in the living room. I asked her where my dad was, and she gave me a strange look, as if I should already know the answer. She told me that he went to go visit a friend and he'll be back tomorrow. I asked her if she knew who the woman from the truck was, and she told me that she did. Maybe Dad forgot to mention that she was coming to help us with the house. I told her about the accident that happened the night before and how I wasn't hurt, but I could have been seriously injured or even killed. I looked at her expecting words of comfort, but instead she began to cry. I asked her if she was okay. She told me that she was just thinking about how dangerous it is out there and how she worries about me every time that I leave the house. She hugged me tightly and apologized for not being more supportive of what I'm doing. I told her that it's all right and that I love her. I could tell that she was trying to be strong for me, but it was clear that she was afraid for my safety. I promised her that I would try to be more careful in the future. I never want her to worry about me. At that moment, I realized that I was very lucky to be alive. I've had several close calls while working on this house, but this was definitely the closest that I've come to an accident. I'm grateful that my dad grounded me, because I really needed to slow down and take a break. As I got back to work, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the accident. In a strange way, it was a wake-up call that made me realize how precious life is and how important it is to take care of yourself. I knew that I was putting myself in danger by pushing myself too hard and ignoring the warning signs. But it wasn't until I actually experienced something traumatic that I realized how fragile life is. I'm just grateful that I was able to walk away from the accident with only a few bruises and a cut on my hand.